good morning, everyone. This is Michelle for Afro Expats, and I have a site called afroexpats.com where I provide consulting and mentorship for people who are interested in traveling or moving abroad. Basically, I live in Mexico. I live in San Miguel de Allende, which is in central Mexico. And today I want to have a conversation with this lovely lady. Her name is Lee Cotes, and she does real estate. And we have lots of questions that come at us often about who can buy, how can you buy by the beach? There are different rules and different laws. And I just want to have her kind of fill us in a little bit about what can and cannot be done, and also just kind of give everyone information. I was lucky to meet this wonderful young lady on one of my sites, our pages, and it's called Black Owned Mexico Resources and Information. And, that's the space where people who provide services for people of color, no matter what it is, services, information, products, they can post whatever. So she posted that she's a realtor and she's over in the Yucatan area. And I thought it would be interesting to interview her and have her just basically give us some insight and knowledge. So I'm going to let her introduce herself. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle, for having me and for inviting me to have this conversation, this interview with you, and for the people that follows your page and your YouTube channel. I am a realtor here, but not in the Yucatan area. I am a realtor in the Riviera Maya, which there is a difference somehow. Now, yes, in the past, actually, Quintana Roo belonged to Yucatan, but Quintana Roo is actually the newest or youngest state in Mexico, because they separated from Yucatan not a couple, but more, some years ago.
Okay. Yeah. That's great info.
Yes, and the Riviera Maya, what does it comprehend? Because it's not all the way to Cancun, all the way to Chetumal. Basically, it's the Riviera, or the beach strip that goes from Puerto Morelos all the way to Tulum.
Okay.
So basically, if you are looking for properties in this specific area, you can contact me.
Okay. So I have a question. Is Tulum a part of the Quintana Roo, or is it a part of the Yucatan, or is it, explain that, just because a lot of people are going to Tulum.
Yes, actually, Tulum is part of Quintana Roo state.
Okay.
Yucatan is another state. In Yucatan, you can find Mérida, for example.
Okay.
It's a city that belongs to Yucatan.
Okay, that's good to know. So tell me just a little bit about how long you've been in Mexico, how you started in real estate. I know you're not originally from here, so you can share that a little bit.
Yeah, basically, I am Dominican. I was born in Dominican Republic in a city called La Romana in the east side of the island. My first degree was in business, in hotel management, basically hotel management and business administration. I moved to Mexico in 2005. Then I was not able to work here, so I had to move back, because the temporary visas that sometimes you have allows you to live here but not to work. So maybe for nomads, for people that are working online, that may work. But for me, that I was working, that I had to work in a place because of my degree, I was not able to work. So I moved back and I returned in 2009. From there, then I was living in Mexico City, and I did another degree in psychology. So after a few years, I moved to Playa del Carmen, and it was funny because I came here once on vacation, and I was I was ready for the change. I wanted to leave the Mexico City area because it is big, it's very populated. You spend a lot of time going to one city, to one place, to the other. And I wanted to move to a place simpler, some that you can walk, that you can, go around the city in a couple of minutes. And well, Playa del Carmen offered me that, and also it reminds me a lot of my city in Dominican Republic. So it was like, oh yeah, I have two things that I like. And when I came here, I started working for a brokerage,
Okay.
not as an agent. I started in the train because I'm a psychologist. I was working in human resources. I was working in recruitment and also in training, but in the sales department.
Okay.
So I was all the time with the agents. I was learning a lot about the area, about the developments, about the process, about everything. That I said, oh, I want to do that. That looks funny. That looks very interesting, and I went to do that. So that's how I became a realtor here.
Okay, so did you start, I'm sorry if I missed this, in Mexico City, or did you start doing this in where you are now?
No, I started here in Playa del Carmen.
Okay, okay. And how
So
many?
I've been doing it for the last 3 years.
Okay, so you've been doing it for 3 years. So you have good insight on kind of like the ins and outs of purchasing and buying and things like that, right?
Yes, because I started first in the administration area of the real estate. So I was crushing numbers, meeting with vendors, meeting with developers, getting to know the other side of the process. And after I moved to the front side, like being an agent, being in the sales, being with the clients, I have information or a scoop of every part of the process.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. So I guess I didn't ask you this before, but where did you learn English? Because that's a huge plus, obviously, for our audience.
Oh, well, I guess that a little bit here and there. I don't know. I was studying since I was a little kid in the school in Dominican Republic. Being in a touristic area, it's almost expected that you learn another language. English being the most spoken, one of the most spoken languages in the world. So
Right,
it was my it was my default. Like, yeah, you have to learn English, right?
right.
And then I don't know, practicing with people, listening to music, the common things to practice a language.
Okay. So I guess we can get into the real estate questions. First of all, I'm really curious to know, do the laws in general vary, from state to state? Do you know this in regard to buying, purchasing for, people that are not from Mexico?
Okay, that's what I know exactly that can change from one place to the other is that you may or may not need a fideicomiso, which is called. Fideicomiso is kind of a bank trust. Is the only way that foreigners have to buy property in an area that is close to a coast or is close to a border.
Mhm.
And why is that? In the past, like, let's go way back, where when it was easy to just go to a country and steal that area, what Mexicans did to protect that was that they didn't allow or foreigner people to buy land in those areas because they were scared that they can, build military base or something like that they can attack the country, they can attack the town. So that's why the foreigners were not allowed to buy in those areas. So after Cancun started having this big boom, a lot of foreigners wanted to invest here.
Mhm.
So what they did is that, okay, we cannot disregard the last law that we have. So what we're going to do is that if people want to buy in these areas, they will have to do it through a fideicomiso.
Okay.
So that's why they need to do it. But in places that are in the middle of the country, for example, San Miguel de Allende, you don't need that.
Right.
So this is one of the biggest differences between buying in this area and in other areas of Mexico.
That's interesting history. I knew from the past that, most foreigners are not allowed to buy within, I believe, is it a 50 or 100 kilometers of the coast. I
Yes.
didn't know that was the reason or that it came from that history with Mexico. That's pretty interesting and makes a lot of sense. So, the
And
Frita Camisto, is that something that's offered through the bank or someone that's Mexican? What does that really mean in regard to a foreigner?
yes, it's like a document that they will sign through a bank.
Mhm.
It's not that the bank will hold your property or they will seize your property at some point. It doesn't mean any of that. It's just a way to know exactly how many foreigners are buying, how many foreigners have this property in case that well, the length of the fideicomiso is 50 years, and
Okay,
you will have to, and the owner will have to pay every year to keep this fideicomiso. When the 50 years are done, you have to renew the fideicomiso. But
o-
let's say 50 years is a long time. You can inherit the property. You can, give it to someone else. You can, it's not that at the end of the 50 years you will lose it. It just
okay.
means that you will have to renew it.
Okay, so if I bought property 50 years from now, it was handed off to my son, he
Mhm.
would need to renew it at the 50-year mark.
Exactly.
It would still be his. Obviously, that entails a lot of other paperwork, but you
Exactly.
don't actually lose the property if you buy. It's still yours. You just have this 50-year agreement.
Exactly.
Okay, I heard in the past that there was a 99-year agreement, something to do with real estate, and I don't know if it's that or I got my number of years incorrect. Do you know what
I
I'm
hear
talking about?
about that, but in Africa. Someone was telling me because I was explaining her about the fideicomiso, and she told me, "Oh, it's like in Africa that you don't belong. I mean, that you don't own the property or the land, but you have it like they loan you the land for 99 years, and after that is done. So it's not the same.
Okay,
Here you actually own the property, own the land.
okay, all right. That's interesting. So tell me a little bit about, because I have a lot of questions and they're kind of because I've done real estate and buying and purchasing in Mexico, but that was a long time ago under different circumstances. But tell me about how someone can buy on a beach. Is that possible? Because I've heard that it's technically not unless that area or that community agrees or something like this. Just kind of clarify that. For example, if I were moving to Playa and I said, you know what, I really want a house on the beach, buying, not renting, how does that work?
Yeah, if there's a space on the beach that you can buy it. It's not a problem. Maybe you are talking about the ejida,
Ejido, ejido.
ejidos, and yes, that is another thing because they handle differently. The lands that they have is handled different, but if it's um, personal property, you can buy whatever wherever you want to, following just the reasons that you have to have the fideicomiso and that you have, to do all the buying process. But the only thing that you cannot buy is actually the land. I'm sorry, the sea, the beach. You can construct, but you cannot close the area because the beaches are in Mexico are public.
Okay.
So you can have your property in front of,
Mhm.
but that's it.
Okay. So do you know anything about the El Jido land? Because that's the history that I'm familiar with. And where even in San Miguel, so this is not only conducive to land that's by the beach or ocean. This is in various pockets in
Yes.
Mexico. So my understanding is, and if you don't know, that's okay. I'm just going to tell you what my understanding is. A few months ago, I looked at some land that was for sale, but it was Ejido land. And there were 38 people that owned this particular
Yes.
area that, you know, as a group decided who owns what and, you know, how it's all like kind of laid out. And you have to get permission from the group to sell your property. Most people are fine with that. But it's kind of awkward because it's kind of surrounded by other property, at least that one was. And, you know, there were no connections to electricity, water. You have to kind of bring all of that in, but you have to
Yeah.
get it. And it's a whole different rule and thing than if you just went straight to, I'm guessing, like, you know, the city, I'm going to call it City Hall to get the paperwork that says it's officially yours. It's a whole different process. Do you know how that works? Just so people know, because sometimes you might see land and you get excited because a lot of times people post things on Facebook and you're like, oh, it's only 10,000 US dollars. Let me run and get it. You need to understand the two differences. I think that's really important for people to understand what they're buying and not just jump on something because it's cheap.
Exactly. Whenever you see very cheap land, ask if it's a private property or if it's a ejido. Because if it's a ejido, the process of buying that land is way different and more complicated. And in the end, you are not allowed to make so many changes to the land, or even if you want to resell it at some point, it's going to be very difficult.
Right.
So this again, we have to go to the past to understand what happened here. At some point, the people that worked the land, they didn't have any, so they were working for somebody else, but they didn't have enough money to buy land or enough money to sustain themselves. So the government, what they did is that they created this ejido, ejido lands, and the ejidatarios, which are the people that inherit that ejido, that land. The ejido was created with a couple of people, and the land was destined for them to grow things or to take care of animals. You know, that was the purpose of having that land, and also, of course, to have their house so they have where to live and they can make money. But then years start to pass. People are more, you know, going to schools, preparing themselves, and they don't want to work the land anymore. Not everybody, at least. So some of them started to sell those lands, but they cannot do it in the same way because for the government they are tagged as ejido land. So what they do is that they well, to seize that that piece of land or to give it away, they need to go to the Congress of the ejidatarios, which means that all the group, as you mentioned, need to first they need to ask if one of them wants to buy the property because they have that right. And then if none of them want to buy it, they will ask if it's okay if he sell his portion of land. If they say yes, they can do it. But in this case, you weren't gonna have like a title deed. You will have cession of rights. So it's like a document saying that you have the cession for that land, and if you want to turn that into a private property that you can sell it whenever you want, you will have to do another process, and it's not guaranteed that you can convert that piece of land into private property. Right. So that's why a lot of agents, we don't deal with those, with the ejido lands. It's very complicated for some people, at least for now. I don't know if in the future they will change it and make it easier, but now it's very complicated. You're not 100% sure that you will get this into private property.
Right. And not only that, my understanding also is that, you know, your land could be in the middle of the other owners.
Mhm.
So if you needed, for example, just a road, you know, to go through, you kind of need permission
Yes.
to build a road, to drive through or whatever. Like, for example, as you said, with tending the land and animals, the property we looked at, it was like inside a gate
Mhm.
that had, you know, cows and cattle and everything everywhere. And we had
Mhm.
to drive to it to get to it was just too, yeah, it was a complicated situation.
Mhm.
I was only
Yeah.
curious, you know, to see it because I knew the girl that posted it. I knew her, and I was just like, oh, you know, just kind of want to see where it is. And it wasn't super far outside of San Miguel. But
Mhm.
when she started to tell me about it, I was reminded of the El Jido
Yeah.
situation because I encountered that years ago in Oaxaca. So I was just kind of curious, and I think it's important for this audience to understand that when you see a deal, you need to really understand who actually owns it and what the situation is. And it's probably
And
better to use an agent than trying to.
yeah, and the ejidos are all over Mexico. It's not only in specific areas.
Right,
So you can find ejido land, I don't know, here in the south, or you can find it in Monterrey, for example. So it's all
right,
over Mexico.
right. That's very common. So just let people know that, you know, ask
Mhm.
those questions. Now, I wanted to ask you about, well, we sort of talked about buying on the beach. The El Jido is not really related to that. The law in regard to you can only be 50 kilometers, you can buy 50 kilometers off the beach if you're Mexican. That does vary from state to state, correct? Because it seems like where you are in Quintana Roo and Playa, it's okay. Maybe even in areas like Mazatlan, but in some other areas, like in Oaxaca, on the beach, on the coastline, it's not that. You can't really buy unless you're a Mexican citizen. Do you know
Oh,
about this?
I don't know if that varies. I actually just hold the license for this area, and those specifics for other areas. I'm not very familiar with that.
Okay, okay. Well, that is the case and that I know of. In some states, they don't allow it unless you get permission. And there's,
Mhm.
like, for example, there's a community in Salchi, which is very close to Hualtuco in the state of
Mhm.
Oaxaca. And a group of Canadians came together and they bought, you know, hectares of land and they built houses, but they had to get permission because it was on the beach. And I don't know if it was El Jido or not. I don't think so, but I know that that's not a common practice, at least in Oaxaca. But the laws might be different because they do have a lot of untouched beaches there. And I think that they are trying to really maintain that natural, you know, look, and they don't want like large hotels and people coming in and overdeveloping the beaches there. But
Yeah,
I think it's a little
yeah,
different.
because that's a difference here. Here in this area, it's started to grow because of the tourism. Actually, before um before the big boom in Cancun 40 years ago, everything here was, fishermen's and been very, very, very small towns. So actually, everything started to develop after the foreigners, after tourists started to come here. So I believe that it's a different vision that this state has opposed to Oaxaca.
Okay, okay. So tell me about just like anyone who might be interested in buying, how does the process work? Because I think a lot of folks are so used to the US, you know, there's good credit and I got a job and I did my tax return. So do I qualify for a mortgage? Mexico, I know is very different. I know that there
Yeah.
are places that will get a mortgage or there are unconventional ways of doing things. But if you could tell me kind of the basic of buying land or buying a property or a house or a condo, whatever, how much money is expected to be put down? For example, if it's already done, I know that you typically need to buy it, right? Cash. And then we can talk about, are there options for getting a mortgage and things like that? Because people don't always understand this. They're like, oh, I really want to buy, blah, blah. And I think they don't always understand, like, it's not the same setup.
This is very interesting because I have a lot of people contacting me that they want to buy, but they don't have the equity at the moment. So they will need a credit, they will need a loan or a mortgage, right? And at least in this area, I cannot talk again about other cities, but here in Riviera Maya is a cash market. It's a cash market every single time. So you can get a credit. What I do is that I tell my clients it's easier for you to get a credit in your home country and then buy here in cash than actually get a credit here. I'm not saying that it's not possible, it is, but then the interests are very high.
Yes.
So you end up paying a lot for the 100K that you wanted to spend in the first time. So if you
let me just stop you for a second. Since you mentioned the interest, I don't want to miss that. What kind of interest rates? Because I've heard different things, and I want people to know, just so if they are entertaining buying, they already kind of have an idea, buying with credit.
Okay, let's for example, you can get something between 10 to 15% interest rate, which is high.
Very high. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So yes, if other people get a credit in the States or in Canada or wherever they are from, and they get a interest that is lower than that, it's doable that you can purchase here in full, and then you spend that amount of time that you need to pay the credit that you get in your home country. What I heard is that mortgages in the States do not apply to buy outside the States. So they need to be like a personal credit.
So the other part of that is buying and percentage. For example, when I moved here, the property manager that, set everything up for us where we live, she was heavily involved. She's also a realtor, but heavily involved with a lot of the developments that are going up. And this is just, I'm sure this happens also where you are, but she was suggesting, you can put a percentage down and buy 2 or 3 years in advance before the development is finished. So you get a better deal. You can do payments, to my knowledge. You could put down, I don't know, whatever it was, but it wasn't cheap. It wasn't, I think it was even more than 20%, so sort of up to you. But in that 2 to 3 years, when it's finished, you have to pay it off in full, basically. So it's sort of like a really short, condensed loan, I guess, not a loan, but
like financing.
A financing where you put down, let's say it was 100,000, you put down 50,000, and then you pay off the other 50,000 by the time it's finished. So if it's finished in 2 years, you need to be able to pay it off, and then you can move in. I don't know what happens if you don't, or default. I'm assuming they just take all your money and keep it moving and sell it to someone else. But I know that that's a way that a lot of folks will invest, because it's cheaper than obviously when it's all finished and pretty and people are ready to buy, and it's, the prices go up. So that's also just a thought for people who are interested in investing and, are able to. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, how does it work? How do you qualify, as a foreigner?
Okay. Yes, this is actually here in this area where there are a lot of projects and a lot of developments being built every day. This is a strategy for a lot of people. People that are wanting to invest, or if they want to actually live in that place, they have the option to start with a pre-sale. Pre-sale normally has lower prices than when they are already built, because they offer this friends and family, that's how they call it, friends and family prices, which are normally 20 or 30% lower than the original price, or lower than the price that they will have when they start marketing For example, just to give you an idea, this development is studio apartments, and they started at 80 $80,000 when they just launched the development.
Mm-hmm.
They will deliver on March 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So still 1 year, almost 1 year. But now the prices are higher. The prices now are about $115K.
Mm-hmm.
So just between a couple of months, the price went almost $30,000 more. No, a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like $40,000 more than they were when they started. And they will be increasing systematically the prices until they deliver the unit. So the strategy that a couple of people do, that a couple of my clients does, is that they just want to, keep moving the money and to get the with this earnings, right? It's just, I will buy this in the first stage because I will be when they deliver, I would already have I don't know, 30% more of what I invested. And when they deliver, I will resell the unit and I will get the money back. So that's a strategy that a lot of people use, and it's very doable because the down payment that you have to give, it depends on the development, but it can go anywhere from 10 to 30%. The normal is 30% down payment. That's like the standard.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes some development says, you know what, I will give you 10% down payment, but you will have to give monthly payments. Others says, you know what, you will have to start with 30% down payment, and then 40% during the construction, and the rest when you sign the title.
Okay.
And as you asked, you said before, oh, what happened if they forfeit, if they don't want to, if they can't continue paying? Well, first, they will probably have to pay some interest if they fall behind, and the unit will be delivered when they paid in full. Okay. So it's not that they can use the property if they haven't paid or they haven't signed the title.
Mm-hmm. So what happens, because people need to know, if they can't come up with the rest of the money, it's taken back, correct?
They will need to see that with the developer. I mean, that is a very specific case. Okay. And I know that most of the time, things happen, and I don't know, maybe they can give you some options. They can wait for them for a while, or okay, if they want to cancel, I think that they can do it, but they will be like a part of the money that they already paid will be, the developer will keep it. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's good to know, and I really happy that you're talking about this and bringing up like the details, because I think that for people who want to invest in real estate, that's a great way to start out in Mexico, because I didn't really think about it in regard to, buying before, like beginning stage, putting money in, and then when it's finished, you're making your money back plus. Yeah. And it's exactly not a long period of time, because most of the developments are done within 2 or 3 years.
Exactly.
They move very quickly, especially around here. We have tons of developments that are every day, there's a new. Yeah. So I think that's good information. Now, as someone on a tourist visa, can you buy or temporary or permanent? Like, how do the different visas work in regard to a pre-sale or just buying real estate in general?
Yeah, I've been asked this a lot, and I don't know why people think that it's impossible to buy in a tourist visa. You can. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. If you have the money and want to, you can do it. The process is the same as for anyone. I told before about the fideicomiso, which is the only difference between someone, a Mexican and a foreigner. That will be basically the only difference. Mm-hmm. And even if you have I don't know, tourist visa, or if you are a permanent resident, anyway, you will have to get the fideicomiso. It's the same thing for everyone. The only foreigners that don't need a fideicomiso to buy are the one that already did the naturalization. What's it called when you become Mexican?
Okay.
Yeah, that will be the only ones that are, that can skip the fideicomiso portion of the
Okay.
process.
When you say someone who became Mexican, if you that
Like
doesn't
a foreigner,
okay.
yeah, like a foreigner, you can have this letter when you became a citizen.
Okay.
Yeah, when you get the citizenship. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay. I got it. No, but you can't get that until you go through the other steps. You have to be
Exactly.
temporary or permanent or married
Exactly.
to a Mexican or a child that was born in Mexico to get to that. And I
Or
believe
to get the amount of time living here also.
exactly. I think
Mhm.
that was my next thing to say was I think it's 5 years now. I know it used to be 10 years, but I think it's 5 years now. And yeah, it's a good idea. For example, once you get your permanent status, I think 5 years later, you can apply for Mexican citizenship and qualify, I believe, to also get a Mexican passport if if that's something you want to do.
Oh, another thing that not a lot of people know,
Mhm.
but it's possible, is that you can acquire a temporary residency if you buy real estate in Mexico.
Okay, is there
It
a maximum or minimum amount that you
Yes,
have to spend? Okay.
yes, it is a minimum amount that you need to invest in order to qualify for that. I don't know exactly how much it is this year or if it changed every year, but it was about, last time I checked, was about 250K.
Okay, that's
So
US
after
dollar,
US dollars,
right?
after
Okay.
that amount, you can apply for citizenship.
Now, is
I'm
that you can
sorry,
apply for your
temporary residency. Yeah.
temporary residency? Okay, all right, that's good to know. And I have a question in regard to buying land. Um, and this is a little slightly off the visa topic, but I was told that if you have land, because sometimes people buy land just to sit on it and keep it, or they have the intention of doing something later on. Um, you pay higher taxes on the land if there's nothing on it, as opposed to if you just even build something small on there. They consider that to be falling in a less expensive tax bracket. Do you know about this?
The taxes actually are depending on the value of the property. So the bigger the construction, the taxes are higher. If you just have land and you have nothing constructed on it, the taxes will be lower than if you build something smaller.
Okay, maybe it's something else because I remember a friend of mine telling me she had land and they tax you different if you don't live on it. For example, if you just have it and it's just sitting there, they tax you a little different. But if you put a structure on and you say someone's living there, whatever, that it's a little bit less expensive. And I don't really remember the details on why,
Uh,
but
I
it was
just
something to do with
well,
it's just land.
I just heard something like that. Well, something like that applies when you want to sell the property and you want to reduce taxes.
Maybe
When you
that.
want to sell the land, and the taxes will be some people can deduct taxes when they sell something and they are already living there. But on land, you cannot deduct the taxes because, well, there's not proof that you're living there.
Okay, okay. So tell me a little bit about if you know leasing to own, because I know that that's also kind of a big thing, I believe, here in San Miguel at least. Do
Oh,
they have
I
situations like this, like a lease to own through a owner financing situation?
that's something that we haven't come with that here in this area, and I don't know if that is a possibility. It depends if the owner wants to do something like that, I guess. I haven't had any client which ask or offer this option to the buyer. So yeah, have to be a case by case scenario. We'll have to check, but it's not like a big thing here.
Okay, all right. I know it's not a huge thing, but in San Miguel, but I know that it's out there because I met someone recently who was talking to me about this, and it's similar to I mean, I think it's kind of, you must know them and there's some trust there,
Mhm.
obviously. And it's kind of the same in the US, there's a lot of paperwork involved and but you still kind of have to
Yeah,
lean towards trusting that situation, but they
yeah.
have attorneys here that will draw up contracts for that. And I haven't looked into it, but I was curious about that since people ask those questions about getting financing and mortgaging something, that would be an option as well. So I'll have to find out a little bit more about how does it work. So in regard to selling, I know you mostly probably deal with that, but do you also do rentals? I want
I
to talk.
used to, but not anymore.
Mhm,
Um, you start focusing on one thing and then leave the other thing behind.
mhm.
And that happens to me. I was doing rentals for a couple of months, and I didn't have enough time to make the selling portion of it. And it's like, oh no. So I recently stopped. I did it all. I did it maybe for the last 7 months, I guess. Yeah, for the
Okay.
last 7 months.
Okay. So you can tell us a little bit about the process.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So my question is because when I moved here, and I feel like, with Mexico, everything is inconsistent. And I think that's why people have so many questions and there's a lot of misinformation out there. And hopefully some of this will help, someone that's watching. But when I moved, I came first for a research trip. And, like I said, I've lived in Mexico and traveled in and out of Mexico before, but I just happened upon this place. And, after driving around for a day, looking at a bunch of things, met the property manager for this space. And she's like, yes, I have something for rent. This particular development, like most, there's not, for example, I'll go back a step. In the US, there are lots of developments where it's only rental. So someone owns it or a corporation owns it and they rent it out and they have a rental office and you walk into that office and you deal with that, office only and you get the contract and everything signed and you follow their rules. And then if you're approved, you get to move in. Everything that I've encountered in Mexico is there's someone who owns it, individually owned or whatever. There's not like a giant building, apartment building, and I don't know if it's different in Cancun, but I haven't found that in San Miguel. So I think that's important for people to know because coming from the US, we have that mindset, oh, I'll just rent an apartment. You really have to kind of find the right thing or the right agent to get the right situation. And a lot of times I feel like it's word of mouth, meaning you don't really know what your experience is going to be. So, one, be patient. I always tell people, be really patient. It's a different culture, it's a different country, and things don't work exactly the same way as your home country. So, you have to come with more patience and, just kind of more grit to be able to dig in, especially if you're not bilingual or fully fluent in the language. So, in saying all of that, I think we got a little lucky because, we got here, we did the research trip, and we got in touch with this particular person who was a property manager for the owner of this unit. And it's in a development with a ton of other places that are all individually owned. So every single house that's for rent has a sign in the window. And that's how people find things. It's kind of like, you're driving by like, oh, that's a cute house. Let me get that number and write them. how does it work? So I have two parts to this. How does it work in regard to just kind of like having some kind of network as a realtor? Because in the US, there's the MLS system where, you know, there's multiple listings
Yeah.
and you can go and you can say, oh, I really like blah, blah, blah. And you talk to this agent and that agent will speak to the agent of that property. Is it kind of the same process here, or is it kind of more, you know, pieced together a little bit? I don't really understand, like, if there's a common area for people to look for rental properties.
Yeah. Well, first, no, there's not like big buildings that are owned by companies here either. Even though if you see a very big building, every unit belongs to different people, or maybe a person have a couple of apartments in the same building, but it's not like a corporation per se. It's a person, and they will have their property manager as well. And how does it work? There's not a proper MLS in Mexico. There, different agencies will have their own MLS, which is that, oh, those are the properties that I have. Those are the things that I have for sale. Those are the things that I have for rent, to rent. And, you know, we communicate. It's like, oh, you know what, I have this client that is looking for this apartment, this and that. So do you have something like that? And they can say, oh, yeah. Even though, for example, we use a lot WhatsApp here in Mexico. And in this area, we have different groups of realtors just offering and asking for things they have. It's like very in real time. Like, I need this. Do you have it? Oh, I don't, but yeah, I do. You know, things like that is how we find properties if we don't have them on our own.
Okay. All right. That's good to know, because I think that people think agents will just, you know, walk them to like 10 apartments that closely match their, you know, required things or their desires. And they get frustrated because sometimes they don't realize the agent's showing you what they have under their umbrella, under their agency.
Yeah.
And they might not have worked that hard to try to, especially if they're not sure if you're even going to get a place through them, they're not going to really work that hard to make 10 more appointments for you to see whatever. So I think people need to understand that there is no MLS system, and there is a lot more work for you guys as agencies to, and you know, just because you get a connect, you really may not even know what that looks like until you get there, right? Because they could be showing you really old pictures when it was beautiful. And yeah, and here we are 10 years later, and it looks like
yeah, it's
right?
not.
Yeah,
Like, oh my God, I really like that in the pictures, but not in the
exactly.
reality.
I mean, it happens.
Another thing that you mentioned that I want to touch too is that, oh my God, yes, this place. I don't really know San Miguel and how Mexicans are there, but here in this area, people are more relaxed than in the rest of Mexico. So the American mentality is overmost is that it's fast. Like, it's like, I want it, I got it, right? Here it's not like that. Mexico is not like that. So when you said that you have to take into consideration that when you move, it's a reality. Don't get mad. It's very cultural thing. Right. Mexicans are more laid back, but yeah, they are working, but not at the same rate maybe that you are used to in the States. And one thing that I just learned is that in the States, you don't even have to see the listing agent, because you will have the agent, your buyer representative will have the information to go into the place. With us, it's not the same. With us, you have to make the appointments with the other agent, and the agent will be there, and we have to coordinate between 3 people to show you just one place. Exactly. So a couple of weeks back, I had this client. She was arriving from the States, and she wanted to look a couple of things. I was making the appointments, and then she wanted to look another things. I reached out to other agents to get the appointments, asked her if she wanted to go and see it. She never responded. Then the next day she asked me, so what time are we going to go to the places? And I told her, you know what, you never told me, so I didn't make the appointments. Let me just make them for the afternoon, right?
Mhm.
And in the afternoon she wanted to see something else. It was, oh my God, it's not that simple.
No, it's
You
not.
have to
Right.
also, work at the same pace or rate that the country works.
Right. And I agree with that 100%. I think to step back from, the appointment part culturally, and also, the challenges that Mexico has as a country, people need to understand that that system doesn't work as it does in the US here,
Yeah.
because they don't want people to have so much access to a house because things can be stolen. If there's
Mhm.
a lockbox just hanging around outside, it's not the same pace in this regard either. So people have to understand that, yes, you have to make an appointment way in advance. And if you do it,
Mhm.
show up, like don't
Yeah.
change, because it's a lot of work for you to get in
The
the door,
schedule.
and
Yeah.
you don't know what you're walking into, because you can't get there before someone. It's not accessible unless you just happen to have two people who at around the same time or same days say, I really want to see that one too. And you went there the
Mhm.
day before, the week before. So I think people have to understand that it's not so easy for anyone. And a lot of the reasons is, they're concerned about how many people have access to that one house with things in it, and even with not things in it. But a lot of the houses here are, at least in San Miguel, are furnished. So,
Yeah.
there's usually only one person with the key. So that one person is accountable for who went
Yeah.
in and who
Exactly.
walked out, right? And left lights on
Exactly.
and whatever.
And it's very easy to open a lockbox. It's
Exactly.
super easy if to have people go inside and
Yeah.
all that kind of things. And aside of that, also there are people that are not licensed to be real estate agents, and they do it anyway. So it's like, oh, I do this, but as a side hustle I also do real estate, and they are not certified. They are not follow all the rules that you have to follow as a full-time real estate agent. And you don't know who is who. So that's it's another reason why some people are more cautious to leave everything open to everybody.
Right, right. And that makes a lot of sense to me, especially when you're talking about a furnished unit. And just so people know, a furnished unit is not just furnished with, a couch and a table. It means you get appliances, you get a refrigerator and you get a washing machine, you get a dryer, usually maybe a microwave if you're lucky. But in the US, that's also a huge difference, because if you get an apartment, in general, it usually comes with those things. In Mexico, it does not. If it says unfurnished, that means you have to come with everything, not just your furniture. And you have to come with a refrigerator. You have to come with,
Mhm.
maybe you have to even come with a stove. You have to come with a
Yeah.
microwave. You have to come with a washing machine and a dryer. So if you're considering, renting long term, and for example, a lot of Americans will come and they are moving with furniture. Like when I moved here, I moved with furniture. Now, not everyone's doing that. This is just me talking about our situation. But I didn't move with a washing machine and a dryer. I wasn't going to load up a truck with
Yeah.
that, because I'm just assuming in my head, like, okay, I get that with a apartment. And I knew about this one. So I want to kind of jump back to the situation and paperwork and all that other stuff in a bit. But I want people to understand the differences. So, for example, since we've lived here in this unit, we've been here since 2018 when we moved. We considered another unit because the rent was just a little less. And this one came furnished, but we took stuff out because we had our own stuff to move in. But we enjoy the things that the other unit didn't have, which is a washing machine, dryer, refrigerator, microwave, a dishwasher, stove, the whole nine. And so, we had to kind of weigh out, does it make sense to buy all this stuff, right? If you're trying to downsize, or do you just rent it and you stay where you are and whatever? So we decided to stay here. But what I wanted to get back to was doing the paperwork. I think that's also very inconsistent for renters. So people want to know, what do they need to rent? Do they need to have a temporary visa? Do they need to have a permanent visa? It really all depends on the owner, right? Because we didn't have those when we came here. We were tourist visas. I don't even remember them really asking me for anything. Like, can I see money going into an account? I think it was just the luck of the draw, or maybe they just really liked us. I don't know, because I don't remember us having to qualify for anything in any way, but that's not always the case. I didn't have to get what they call a cosigner. I was in touch with them because when I saw it, we liked it. We got their info, and for 6 months I pestered the crap out of them. I was like, I'm coming to Mexico. I really want that unit. Will it be available in June? And this was January. So January, February, I came back for another school research trip, but I met with the property manager and I really wanted to see it again and do a video. So I knew exactly what was going on and what I was moving into. And I wanted to check it out and get a good vibe. But when I spoke to her, I said, what do you need for us to have a lease with you? So it was hard for me to take them serious because I was like,
Yeah.
because there's so many things that you read about that are tricks, right? For example, one of the things that I was most concerned about was renting through the property manager, not knowing anything about this lady, and her renting me the unit, but it wasn't her right to rent it to me. I was very concerned about that. I was very concerned about me renting a unit that was family owned, and maybe someone would show up one day and say, hey, I need the house for a weekend. These are things that happen here.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm just trying to make them aware of the potential challenges or problems that could come up. I don't know how you avoid that. I think most situations work out okay, but there's so many things that you could encounter that we wouldn't think about because it's the process and the whole thing is so different in the US. So I wanted to just say that I did not need paperwork or proof of anything to move here. I think it's just in San Miguel, when they see an American coming or a Canadian, they're happy to rent to you because more than likely the experiences have been, positive. They're going to get their money. They haven't had issues and problems or whatever. And when I showed up at the office, I actually, prior to showing up at the office, I hired an attorney to look at my lease agreement because it was in Spanish. And I didn't really trust translating it myself, and I didn't want to translate it. So I hired someone to do that. So I recommend that, just for the comfortability factor, and someone you can communicate with. Even if you're fluent in Spanish, I think it's important to make sure you're following, laws and things like this by the script, because as a foreigner, and especially on a tourist visa, you definitely have way less rights, right? And it would be a hassle to kind of go back and try to fix things later on. So I always say, hire someone if you can, get help from someone locally, have someone review your contract and translate it for you before you sign it. And as far as the lease, I didn't need a co-signer, but I know that has come up with other people. Can you tell me a little bit about that part a little bit? I forget what they call it, but in the US it's called a co-signer.
Well, the process, at least in cities that are touristics, are way more easy than in other ones. I lived in Mexico City. I just had to rent there once, and they ask a lot of things, even documents from my job and things like that, because it's different. It's a city. It's another kind of situation, right? Here, with a lot of foreigners in the area the whole year, people tend to be more flexible with a lot of things.
Mhm.
And I think that is the same in San Miguel due to the amount of expats that are living in the city as well. Legally, it's supposed a foreigner, a tourist cannot rent a place for more than 6 months if you
Okay.
don't have a valid permit. But this is workable. Why? Because you can leave the country and come back, and you will have the other an extra 6 months.
Right.
So you can do it, doing that part. They will not ask most of the time for your visa. They are assuming that you are here legally,
Mhm.
and they will take your word for granted. They
Okay.
they weren't gonna ask you, oh, show me when you entered the country and when you're leaving. They weren't gonna ask that. Um, and now here, what documents do they require? That will depend on the owner.
Mhm.
Most of the time, with an ID, that will be enough.
Okay.
But I have other landlords that request a proof of income, that request a valid address in the States,
Mhm.
that request the name of someone that you know, in maybe here or in the States, that can vouch for you.
Mhm.
But that depends on the owner,
Okay.
that how easy or how less documents they ask, or how much documents they will ask
Okay.
too.
Okay. And that's something that is good to know because people can encounter one situation and they'll ask someone else and they get frustrated. And I'm like, again, it goes back to each house here is individually owned. There is no
Yeah,
standard. So they need
yeah.
to understand, like, it all depends on the owner and what the owner wants or what they're comfortable with, or even what the owner's past experiences have been. If they got jaded or slayed,
Yeah,
lost some money, then they're going to be like, I need blah, 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 blah.
yeah,
So it
yes.
all kind of depends, because I remember I looked at another unit in where I live, and they asked me for that information, and I said, I don't have that. I've been living here. Maybe my landlord can vouch for me because I've been
Mhm.
paying on time, but they
Yeah.
did want kind of like a local person that could
Hmm.
co-sign or vouch for me.
Yeah.
So that's
And
good.
another thing that I strongly suggest, as you mentioned, is to have someone that can guide you through the process, at
Mhm.
least at the beginning.
Mhm.
Getting a real estate agent doesn't cost you anything. Anyway, if you do it through the landlord, through the property manager, or through the owner directly, anyway, you will have to pay 1 month in advance and
Yep.
one deposit.
Right.
It doesn't cost you more to have an agent, a valid one, please, someone that actually works for an agency that you can find, because as I'm telling you, sometimes there are people that don't, and you don't know that. And I've heard about people, oh, I give them the deposits and they
Yeah,
just disappear. They're not answering me. That
exactly.
can happen. You are in a very beautiful country, but you will find good people and bad people as well. So you have to be mindful to get someone you recommend, maybe, or someone that you can trust, but at least find someone that actually works for an agency that you can see, oh yeah, I work for, I don't know, Remax, Century 21, whatever place you trust the most. Or if someone tells you, oh, I work with her and she is great, you can do it. But
Right.
otherwise, sometimes myself, right now I am looking a place for rent, and I'm like, I wasn't gonna get it from somebody I don't know, what I don't trust, even though I'm in the business.
Right.
So if
Right.
I don't do it, I speak the language. I strongly agree that find someone that can guide you through.
Right. I agree because one of the things that the attorney offered to me was making sure the actual owner was filed with the city, like all the information matched up with my lease, who I was paying, whose account I was paying to.
Hmm.
Like they really wanted the lease to reflect the name of the person who
Yeah.
owned this with the city paperwork and everything. So it wasn't expensive. I mean, I think they charged me 800 pesos for this service, and I wasn't physically here yet. So I recommend that to folks, just like I said, if you can't come in advance, you can't be here before, take your time, don't rush. Don't say, oh, I saw this beautiful place and you didn't see. Don't ever do sight unseen. Just don't do it. Please just don't do it. Unless you have a friend that can go and look at it for you, just don't do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You probably
Even though the pictures can be of the same place, that the place can be,
really crappy on
I don't
the
know,
outside.
10 years
I've seen,
later,
yeah,
really old pictures.
or the neighborhood's not that nice.
Yeah, too, that too.
There are plenty of beautiful homes, and like I looked at a house. I don't know. Anyway, it was nice on the inside. It was a beautiful home. It was actually brand new, but the street, I was just like, oh no. I walked up and looking around, I was just like, nah. And it's not a bad neighborhood. It just, you can have a nice house, but you also want to step outside and it feels like, okay, this is nice. I'm not going to be embarrassed
Yeah.
if someone pulls up in front of
No,
my house.
and it's totally understandable. You are not coming to Mexico to live in a place that you don't like.
Right.
It's common sense.
Exactly. Especially if you're coming here to, have
Hmm.
better things or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have a question though about leasing. So once you lease, I've heard that the owner is supposed to like report the taxes, pay taxes on the lease because it's income, and they're supposed to give you like an annual paperwork or a piece of paper that says, you paid this much to the owner or something. And I think it's more for the owner to pay taxes. I don't know if you know about this.
Well, it also again it depends on how is the owner handling the SAT situation. The SAT will be that the equivalent to the IRS in the States is where you have to see all your taxes and stuff. A lot of people, what they do, and this depends. They will I don't know, give you an account of someone else, maybe the spouse,
Mhm.
that they don't have to reflect all the taxes, or they will collect the money cash, or if they do it as you said, they will have to give you this document, but that will be depending on the owner.
Okay.
Some people actually, to avoid these things, they prefer to get the money in cash, but
Right. Right. No, I
to
know,
each
I
their
know.
own.
I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble. I'm getting the information out just in case, someone needs to know. Because my understanding initially was that you get that so it kind of builds your credibility. So if you want to move, if I want to move somewhere else, I can say, you know what, here's my stuff that I paid for the whole year. I can still prove it because, I usually pay through my bank account here in Mexico. So I could have that printed out and say, here's my payments to so and so for the last 3 years. But I thought that it has something to do with making sure you had, credibility, that if you want to move somewhere else, you then don't need someone to co-sign for you. You know what I mean? You could say, look,
Oh,
I've been
oh
doing
no.
this, but I think
Actually,
it's more tax-based and tax-related to pay the government their portion.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now the cosign, the co-signature, again, it depends on the owner. Maybe the next owner will ask you, or they don't. So it's not that will not reflect like in a database or something that you can look for your name and say, oh, you know what, she has a good credit. It's not like in the States that they will check everything about you to rent your place.
Right.
It's case by case, because every place belongs to someone else,
Right. That
to a
makes
different person. Yeah.
That makes sense. So yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot here in regard to, yeah, even the tourist visa, temporary visa, permanent, you can pretty much buy. It all kind of
Yeah.
depends on, your financial situation and what you're capable of doing, and mostly, knowing that it's probably going to be all cash. I think people need to know that, and especially if they really want to own something. And it kind of makes sense in the long run because, if you're just renting for years in and years out, at some point you probably could afford to buy something, but it all just kind of depends on whether or not you can get in and put something down. I think on a pre-sale, that makes the most sense. You know, if you don't have 100,000 or 2 or 300,000, it kind of makes sense if you can put 50 or 100 on, depends on the value, and either make your money back or, you know, pre-own it and pay it off over, you know, pay off the balance over a 1 or 2 year period. Then you have ownership and everything else in your life is less expensive on a month to month basis, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, I think we covered a lot. Let me see if I had any other questions. Yeah, I asked you that already. Talked about the attorney. Yeah, maybe you can tell me a little bit about just the general, and this is probably too general, but cost in Playa or where you are for rents or, you know, buying. I mean, I know that's probably higher than obviously going to a little, you know, town somewhere else in Mexico. Because I've seen places here and people tell me like, oh, I used to pay, not here, San Miguel, because it's also expensive, but, or more expensive, I should say, than other parts of Mexico. But people will tell me about spots where they're like, yeah, I pay, you know, it's 100. I remember I met a guy. This is a good example. I met a gentleman like a year and a half ago. My husband and I, we were in Guanajuato, which is 1 hour away from here, and that's the city for the state that we live in. So we live in the state of Guanajuato, but we're in San Miguel de Allende and Guanajuato City. So we went to Guanajuato City and we met two gentlemen, and he said, "Oh yeah, I have a 2 bedroom and it's like 250 US dollars a month," and I'm just kind of blown away. By the prices. I'm like, oh, I could have paid that when I was in high school, you know, like if I had rent for that amount, I would be just fine. I'd probably be a millionaire right now, right? So in saying all of that, it varies so much. And I'm sure Playa is, you know, up there with the
Yeah. Yes. You know, that's the difference between touristic cities, because the population here probably is like a 30 or yeah 30% foreigners. And now let me go ahead and say more, because if we count the Mexicans that are not from here, that are coming from other cities, maybe the 90% of the population is not from this area, you know. And then add there's a lot of projects that are focusing totally on tourism. There's a lot of people coming here just because they want to spend here a couple of days. So prices, we have different prices depending on areas, of course. Location.
right.
If you are living right in the first street facing the ocean, you can find something at $3,000 easy. Two
Right.
bedrooms, easy,
I'm
no
not
problem. Yes,
rental. Mhm.
yeah, like when the kind of place that when you open your windows, you can have the water, right? Yeah,
Okay.
for a two bedrooms in a very nice condo, there will be like this amount of money.
Mhm.
But let's say that you go further like 2 blocks,
Mhm.
maybe you can find the two bedrooms for $1,500.
Okay.
Little more, and you can find something maybe 15,000 pesos,
Okay.
or 20,000 pesos, which
And
is
that's
almost 1,000.
about 1,000.
Yeah,
just
almost
for people to
1,000.
know. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So
then
a thousand, so 15,000 pesos or 20,000. Well, let's do 20,000 pesos would be about 1,000 US dollars a month.
yes,
Mhm.
and that will be a very sizable. Depends on the building, of course, but you can find a studio for that amount close to the beach, or you can find the two bedrooms closer to, well, farther away from the beach,
Mhm.
with two bedrooms. I'm talking about two bedrooms all the time, okay?
Right.
And then you have the highway, the 307, that goes all the way from Cancun to Tulum.
Mhm.
And that's how it's divided here. Everything to the east side, which is close to the beach, and then the west side that is further away.
Mhm.
And then in that area, you can find the things again, maybe 800, 700. and very, 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 very low prices depending on how far you go. Like something nice, $500, $600.
Okay, but what are the neighborhoods like in a $500 or $600 price range? Just so people know, like, is it becoming not so nice on the outside, or are you in a development, or are you in the city and it's pretty nice?
You will be in the city, but it's residential areas. The ones that I'm mentioning, you have residential areas, and probably most of the time gated communities.
Okay.
That's like what I know, what I offer, and what I usually know the prices of, and that I know, expats and foreigners prefer to live as, instead of somewhere just in the street.
Okay.
Like I don't even know the prices on those properties, and if they rent with agents or directly with the owners.
Okay.
But most of the time, those 500, 600, let's say 600, just to be safe,
right.
Is in a gated community with a pool, common areas, and everything that you can, not don't spend that much, but still have a nice place to live.
Okay, that's good to know. And what are the prices like for a place that would be in a gated community with everything you just listed, 2-bedroom in that area, neighborhood, not so close to the beach, that costs $500 or $600 US to rent? What would a for sale price be for something like that? Approximately.
Those are smaller apartments that can be maybe around less than $1 million, less than $1 million pesos.
And what is
less
that?
Than a million pesos.
I'm gonna do the math too.
Yeah.
1 million pesos.
Like 50K, 60K.
Okay, yeah, about 50,000
Yeah.
US. Okay, más o menos. Okay, all right, that's good to know. I mean, that's not bad. 50,000, you got 50,000, just, drop that and you can have a place that's not too far from the beach in a gated community, and you're still in Playa. I mean, Playa del Carmen, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it. If not, they've already visited. It's very touristy. For me, it's super transient, so I'm not crazy about it. Lots of, tourists and people coming and going in general because it's popular. It's where it is. But that's actually, I think personally, that's a good price range if you wanted to live, where it's warm weather, you're by the beach in general, or close enough to the beach. That's not a bad price. San Miguel is a little bit more expensive in way of like, for example, I live in a development, and I think the 2-bedrooms here go for, I would say, closer to 100,000 US. And you get the same amenities. We're not by a beach, but you have pools, you have a tennis, you have jacuzzis, and you have like a clubhouse, casa club, and spa rooms, blah, 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 security. But they're definitely not 50,000. They're more. So I think that that's a good comparison. I know that Mexico's huge, and there are plenty of places where you can buy, real estate and get a lot for your money. And I think that's good for people to have a good, like, here I am, dead smack center in the middle of Mexico, and then there's the beach, and there are other beaches that you can find very affordable places. And especially if you did a pre-sale on something like, not that a place that's going to be brand new is 50,000, but, a pre-sale that is probably doable for you to pay that off in 1 or 2 or 3 years. Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I'm going to get all your information after, but tell us what agency you're with, if you have like a website, what's your contact information. And I'm definitely going to put that at the beginning of this video, but we didn't go over that.
Well, basically, I work for a company, an agency that is called PIM, Property Investing in Mexico. Okay. And what we do is real estate. We are buyers representative most of the time, but anyway, we can with our existing clients if they want to sell their properties, or if somebody else come to us to sell their property, we can do that too. And well, the page is pimrivieramaya.com. I know it's in Spanish. pimrivieramaya.com.
Riviera Maya. Okay. Okay.
And well, my email is lylee@pimrivieramaya.com.
Okay.
And my phone number, which is my WhatsApp as well, is +52 55 91 68 9055.
Okay. And I'll post everything. I'll make sure it shows up at the beginning and also at the end, and also with, whatever I put online, I'll put it in the post and make sure everyone can get in touch with you. Thank you so much, Lee, for all
thank
this
you for
time.
having me.
I'm a chatterbox. You seem like you like to talk too, so we got a little bit long here, but it's good information, and I really appreciate your time today, Sunday, to share all your experiences and your knowledge about real estate. I think it's important for people, and you will be the go-to for anyone that's going to, go to Quintana Roo, right? Quintana Roo. And anywhere in the Riviera Maya area, I will make sure that they know to contact you. You're the go-to, and you have that experience.
Yes. No, yes, and thank you for inviting me. I think one of the things that I'd really like to do is to let people know everything, or as much as they can, before they embark into buying property, because it's not stressful if you have a good agent like me.
Yeah.
No, it's not stressful, but I really like that people know exactly what they can expect and what they will expect, and why this is. If you see, I know a little bit of a lot of stuff because I really like to read and give my clients and my buyers all the information they can have beforehand, because it can be very different than what you normally do in the States or in your home country, that it's not done here or that we do here. And it's better to know in advance.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. And I think it's also really key to make sure, like you said, that the person is with an agency that can be found, that has an email that says the name of the agency. That's a plus. Yeah. And also, is fully bilingual, because there are some things where we can skate by, like ordering food and asking, ¿Dónde estás los baños? Pero there's other things when it comes to, buying and spending chunks of money. You really need to have clarity. And I'm so happy that, we met, and this information is not really just from someone who's not living or has not lived here and really worked in this field. I think it's crucial. I learned stuff from you today. I mean, I already knew some things, but I learned a lot. The history about the Ejido land and the different processes and things like that. And I think that people need to be aware of these things, because it's not just always about a good deal, okay, it's so cheap. Yeah. And also just even
there's a reason why it's cheap.
Exactly. Or even buying land, for example, I have some friends that bought land and they jumped on it, and no issues with the buying process, but it's kind of like, are you going to be accepted even in this area, because you're a foreigner, and I don't want to live in a place where I'm going to be concerned about my safety or my house and my things. And I feel like when you deal with an agent directly, they can kind of, steer you in the right direction if you have a good agent. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you again, and anyone that comes my way and is looking in that neighborhood or area, I will certainly pass them on to you. Please feel free, like I said, to post anything, even if you have places for rent and sale, post it. on my
Okay.
page, please do. You know, I think we don't always know where things come from, but you know, the more you put out there, if you have that kind of time, or share it with me on PM and I'll put it out there, whatever you want. I think it's nice to come directly from, you know, yourself, because they can contact you for info. Nice apartments or places that are for sale or pre-sale, you know, you never know who might want to invest. I have a few friends that are looking to invest in Mexico, and you know, San Miguel wasn't it because it's kind of pricey, but some of the prices you listed are, to me, they're very doable. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I will do that, and let's see.
All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Speak soon. Bye.